Welcome to Who Knew. We are fans of the current series of Doctor Who, and here we discuss our likes, dislikes, and insights into the modern regeneration of the show. Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/WhoKnewPodcast. All our episodes are on WhoKnewPodcast.com. You can leave comments there or email us at WhoKnewPodcast@gmail.com. We also have an Instagram and Twitter account. Tweet at us at WhoKnewPodcast. And find us on Facebook. Today's episode is episode 3 of season 9, Under the Lake. Again, this is a season with all two-parters, so we will be saving our recommendations for the next episode, as well as if it lives up to the promises in the first. Nothing good seems to happen underwater when ghosts take over a sea base. This episode is written by Toby Whithouse, directed by Daniel O'Hara. It originally aired on the 3rd of October 2015 and was originally watched by 5.63 million viewers. Hi, this is Eugene. Let's introduce ourselves.
The rescue sub is almost here. Hi, this is Auburn.
Who called for it? This is Frank.
Hi, this is Brian.
Okay. Kidding.
What?
Nothing. I thought you were going to do a nautical something.
The space is under quarantine.
Ahoy, ahoy, this is Brian.
There you go. An underwater mining facility finds a shuttlecraft and brings it to the station. Captain Moran and the others examine it, but it's empty except for strange writing on the inside. Captain Moran is killed when the engines suddenly ignite. Everyone runs out before the area is sealed off, only to run into the ghost of Captain Moran.
I liked this opening a lot. I thought the sea base looked really good. I think they did a good job on that. And it kind of established everybody's personality. I mean, they're not fully three-dimensional characters, but they feel like they could be, or they are, and you're only seeing just this one part of them, but they feel like they're real people. They did really well with introducing everybody as somebody.
Yeah, because I remember us doing another Sea one with Classic Who with the Fifth Doctor, the Sea Devils, and like this looks like the upgrade of whatever they were trying to go for on that one.
Right.
Yeah, I like the abyss feel of everything, and I think, like you said, Frank, the characters kind of have that lived-in experience, especially with like the mixture of the corporate and the military-esque and everything. Yeah, I was getting some James Cameron feeling from the beginning of this.
And also some humor, where it's like, don't tell me on Earth before. I've never seen it on Earth before. Nope, that's true.
And also an interesting choice to have a sign language and a deaf character right away. I mean, I know that we in America would probably use ASL, American Sign Language. Eugene, is British Sign Language different than American English Sign Language?
Yes, there is a British Sign Language as well. And I don't know if you noticed this, but in every scene, the both of them are in the background or somewhere in the scene. So everything that's being said is being signed to the other person. And I thought that was really thoughtful in how they covered these scenes.
I don't know a lot of ASL. I know some. And it's like, that's not what I thought. It's like I couldn't read it at all. You know, and then once in a while, some of the gestures were the same. Sometimes were the same, or similar enough where I got it. You know, I would like to know somebody who watches Doctor Who is deaf and would see that and how much they see it differently. That I want to talk to someone that way.
So
what their differences are.
But not the watching aspect, but the casting aspect. The person who we will meet or talk about later is Cass, Sophie Stone. She is deaf in real life, so that was British Sign Language on the show.
Do you, not to get to casting, but do you know, was the part written first to be someone who couldn't hear, or was she cast and then it was changed to fit that?
She was on the commentary.
Oh, okay.
And so was the writer. Toby mentioned that it was written for somebody that was going to sign, but to what extent and how they were going to cover that, they didn't know until in production. So I don't know which one came first, but
sorry, that's just a joke that you didn't plan on, I think, for this episode.
So yeah, I don't remember, but they were talking about how they wanted to make it very how should I put this? They said there was an underrepresentation of signing characters in media, so they felt they would did this justice, and I think they did.
Agreed.
I looked it up, and they got the British Deaf Association has publicly praised the episode, specifically calling out Cass's use of British Sign Language.
So we'll get into it, but in sign language, it's not like a one for one because there's a lot of sign speak that is not needed, I guess, in normal conversation. So I think they said they had to either improvise or spell it out, which took a while if they were spelling the techno babble out.
Oh yeah, lots of weird names and words.
Yeah.
The TARDIS drops the Doctor and Clara into the facility, and they find Moran's ghost alongside another one that is wearing a top hat. They follow the ghost to the shuttle where they see the writing. The ghosts chase the Doctor and Clara, who find the crew in a Faraday cage. It prevents radio waves from entering as well as the ghosts. The base activates the daylight mode, which the crew says keeps the ghosts away. Reconvening to examine the shuttle, the Doctor notices that a suspended animation chamber and a power cell are missing. Pritchard, the company shill, leaves the ship to see if he can find the power cell.
And there's like the aliens reference. You have the company man wanting the whatever it is for profit instead of I'm more worried about human lives and their safety.
Burke. Good old Burke.
Also here, as soon as the TARDIS arrives, the Doctor notices that the TARDIS doesn't want to be there.
Yeah.
So I like that it sets that up as well with the TARDIS, and we get the TARDIS is kind of, even though you don't see it, it's still much more vocal and a character throughout these two episodes and this episode than sometimes it has been.
Yeah, I do like that the cloister bell and then the weirdness going on, like he can sense it. Another thing I like about this is when the Doctor is being sort of curt and abrasive with the situation that's going on. He has those index cards for the right situation.
I love those. I'm sorry, I did not realize you did not live in Aberdeen.
That's so good. I think the one that he reads is, I'm very sorry for your loss. I'll do all I can to solve the death of your friend / family member / pet.
Yeah, I like the relation. I sort of like the relationship that Clara and the Doctor have, where they're really open about, oh, we just came from this adventure and we want to do, or at least Clara wants to do more like vacation type adventures, which I think would be a better fit on a brand new companion, where like I'm trying to go back to when this first aired and we were watching it live, because today I do enjoy it a lot more, and it isn't like evoking any strong emotions, but I do think this was close to the end for my initial watching, because I did not get to Maisie Williams, who's coming up in the next two-parter. But this time it wasn't too bad, but I could see how Clara has lost some of that charm, because like they're also bring up relationships, and she has too much of a past at this point, I think, for to continue being a companion.
Yeah.
I see it a little differently, but I understand what you're saying. But she is showing an arrogance, high-fiving their situation. And it's like you're going too far. And looking at it now, it is very sad, because the way I see it, she's not really over Danny. That seemed so close still, because that was just the end of the last season. This is only the third episode, and then when she reunited with the Doctor and he knows that Danny has died. So it seems you're running away. You're using where the Doctor was part of your escapism from your real life. This has now become your real life, and you're leaving that behind. You're just delving all over through this part of being the Doctor and time traveler and all this. It just seems, it's like this is really the fall of Clara. I know it started earlier, but it's like you can just see it. It's like this isn't the same person that we all liked in the beginning, or most of us liked. I don't want to say everybody.
Also, I guess it is kind of the way it's presented, because like Rose has been thrilled to see what the adventure is going to be. They didn't high five, they hugged. Where it was, oh, werewolf! Oh my God, can you believe it? But I don't know. There is a bit more layers to this one. And my favorite part is when the doctor basically says, "Don't be me."
Right.
Stop being me.
But
And don't we all wish we could say that to Clara?
But what's weird in this situation, I'll bring it up later, but it's kind of warranted later in the story that she sort of takes on the mantle of the doctor's role.
Yes. In this specific instance, it works really well. I think when you just do the culmination of everything that they've led up to and what they follow with, it just gets, we're kind of looking at it as, stop it, just stop it.
And a comment about the Rosen doctor being excited happened after they found out what's going on. It's like, oh my gosh, this is what we're dealing with? And with Clara, it's before they know anything that's happening. Oh, it's an abandoned space. Okay, you don't know enough yet to whether or not to be excited about or what's happening to it. This is the adventure, and you go, well, this seems boring. I want to do something else.
Oh yeah, she does say this.
There's a very
boring.
difference between what Rose and the doctor was a momentary of, oh my gosh, we're actually going for a werewolf, when they know what's happening, and it gets serious again. And that doesn't seem to happen with Clara. She was from the beginning not even knowing what's going on.
Well, it's weird. Like Alburn, you brought up like this is something, or what you brought up about this being sort of a new companion behavior that Claire is displaying. It feels like the whole season or the whole run of her is kind of out of order. So I wish they didn't do that, because what I do like about this specific area we're talking about is that they are both working toward the same goal of figuring out what is going on here. And they're kind of both smart, but then that thing that I brought up with the cue cards, that feels like a first season companion thing, very early on in their relationship or their run of the show, because this is Capaldi's second season and he's still not figuring out if this is Kurt, if this is correct, if I need to be emotionally supportive, or if I need to be... I mean, that's funny on its own. It's funny, but in the context of the things that we are talking about in Clara's run, this should have been something earlier on in the last season. Except
that this doctor isn't still in the process of forming who he is. He is Kurt. He's fully rounded, and this is what he is, and so it's not like Tennant saying, "Oh, am I rude now?"
But I'm glad you brought up the Tennant example, because that was my example of how I think it worked better. For me, watching this on the first time, I remember thinking like, well, okay, let me back up. When you watch the first 2 episodes of this season, they completely abandoned what the doctor was going to be, and they changed it. So I feel like, again, that this scene should have been in the first season of Capaldi's run. That's what I'm getting at. I like it, but it feels misplaced.
But
he has an easier time dealing with Daleks and Davros than humans.
I definitely see what you mean, but obviously they didn't think of it then.
Right,
they would have put it in. But also,
because this, to me, it feels like they took a piece of, or they took that "Am I a good man" motif with the doctor, and it kind of bled over when they said, we're going to make him punk rock. So that's why in my hindsight context of what's going on, it doesn't fit for me, but these are just my initial reaction. I remember feeling this when I first watched it.
Now that we've rewatched, I'm sorry.
Oh,
may?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Don't forget it. But now that we're rewatching it, I keep going back to the end of last season when he's talking to Misty and saying, "I'm just an idiot with a box." I think changed everything that he's looking at. So anything I think is incongruous, that change is like, okay, that's the point that he changed. And that's the point where it's like, no, I'm going to give up trying to do this. So here, hand me these cards, write down what I should say. Either way you look at it, whether Clara thought of it or he thought of it, it seemed to me, okay, this is how he's going to be now, from now on. The first season took him a long time to find out what he was doing, and that question really was heavy on his mind. And then once he talked to Missy and realized, I'm just an idiot with a box, freed him up to do a lot of different things, like the guitar and like rock and all that.
Well, and don't forget also, too, he's still Scottish. So he's going to need somebody giving him cue cards on how to relate well to people.
I think I like the doctor in this season his character, even though it is different, is getting better defined, and I like the sunglasses and things I'm less annoyed with. I think like the thing with that you guys kind of reminded me of Rose, and Clara is missing that balancing kind of trait of being more caring about the people. Like it almost seemed like she was, where's the crew, but she never has that same
like empathy.
yes, that empathy
Yes.
that Rose brought to everything.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that is part of her arc of becoming more like the Doctor, more arrogant and more detached from other humans. But I don't like it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we've made that clear. We don't like that.
Yeah.
But we don't like it. We don't want the story to go the way. But they're doing it well because we are getting angry with it.
Yes.
Which I think was what we're supposed to be doing. But so they're doing it well. It's just not the road we wanted them to take. Now, the first time I watched it, I thought it was just all these accidental circumstances that led up to everything. Just watching it, not really piecing it all together. And I don't know if it's just because the British would get something different than what we did, or sometimes we have to listen to it again for the accent, and so we're losing the storyline, or just because I'm stupid. I don't know. But I didn't get that, right at the beginning, the two ghosts did not attack Clara and the Doctor. I didn't get that they led them to the shuttle so they could read the words. I didn't realize that was their plan. That's why they led them to the shuttle and then disappeared, so that they'd go in, read it, and then they showed up again so they could kill them. So they had that already set and in plan. It's like the second time I watch it, oh, it's kind of obvious now, but I did not get that at first. It just seemed like, oh, sure, they find this. Oh, sure, next they just find this, and just the way it needs to be because of the script. But they thought it out. So
I'm very glad you brought that up, because there's a lot of things in here that are very smart and I really enjoy.
right.
Coupled with some other things that are iffy.
And I guess the black eyes is just for the eerie scare factor. I always thought there'd be a reason for it, but that's never addressed.
Yeah, that's just for the atmosphere and the horror aspect, and it works,
Right.
especially at the end.
Right.
The base unexpectedly activates night mode, and the cloister bell begins to chime. The Doctor wants to leave because ghosts are unnatural. Pritchard is killed by the two ghosts. Clara and Bennett find the ghost of him in the galley. He attacks, but O'Donnell, who is in the main command room, reactivates day mode and the ghost disappears. O'Donnell calls for a rescue submarine, but is told that one was requested 30 minutes ago and it's arriving within minutes. Knowing none of the remaining crew requested the sub, the Doctor orders them to turn back, and the base is now under quarantine.
I liked O'Donnell. She's a big fan.
Yeah.
It was nice to have that in there.
Fangirling the whole time.
Yeah, it's kind of a replacement for
Osgood.
Osgood. Yes, she's kind of a replacement for Osgood in this, and they explain a little more in the next episode her knowledge. But I did think it was kind of convenient that she would have this insider knowledge, and almost a little like foreboding.
Mm-hmm.
Like she is on this thing on Earth, but it didn't really seem like highly connected to UNIT or highly connected to the Doctor's world. So it was just like, whoa, does she know too much info?
Yeah, it felt convenient.
Yeah, if this wasn't a unit base, they should have just tried to figure out a way to bring mention of UNIT into a little bit more prominently. Because I remember watching this, and when she's like, it's the Doctor, I was like, how would you know? And then there's like, around that point, there's one message of UNIT. And it's like, oh, did they say this was UNIT? Okay.
Yeah, when they were reading the psychic paper, it goes, okay, I'm from UNIT. That's what it said.
Yeah, that was very fast, we mentioned.
But it doesn't, well, to me, it still wasn't enough. It was like, oh yeah, we're UNIT too. I don't know.
No,
her, I think.
Right. But
like if she was an intelligence officer on it, then that would make sense. But they didn't really, and they had the opportunity with this hodgepodge of characters to just make her whatever. But sorry, Frank, go ahead.
No, I mean, I don't think it's a big point, but because it didn't seem to go anywhere. It wasn't like they tried to make her seem evil, to throw us off. But they had that
No,
one,
yeah.
and then, yeah, they had the one line in the next episode, just, I used to be military intelligence. So she could have said it just then, so he knew what he was dealing with, and then it's like why she knows the doctor. But to me, it didn't really, I guess maybe I already remembered that from seeing it before, so it didn't really register as any issue. Like, okay, she knows. Somebody knows. Please. We had that whole thing with the 11th Doctor being way too big for his britches, and they're trying to erase him from history because everybody knew him. So again, I just went along with that.
Well, and this doctor becomes president of the Earth, so I'm
That's
sure
true.
a lot of people in unit knows.
What I saw when the doctor saying that he could sign, what he said is, "You're beautiful, you're pretty," and that's why her look was, "What the hell are you talking about?" I mean, she had a great reaction to it, and then he's like, "Oh, wait a minute, I can't do this." So, because I was like, yeah, that threw me off because at least that was, an ASL,
And what did he say it
Good
got
point.
switched for? Oh, I can't.
Semaphore.
Flag.
Yes. Has anybody got any
Flag.
flags? Yeah.
Oh, right.
So
He
was
has
that
so many little good lines like that.
Yeah,
also
really.
part of seeing the words? Like that he lost the ASL? Because wasn't that
Oh,
like later that it was like
it was delete.
infecting their brains more and more?
Might be.
Like I didn't take it for that at the time, but only like later
Yeah.
where they talk about that was I like, oh, is that how he forgot British Sign Language? But nobody else got that. All right.
I mean, no, I didn't think about it until you brought it up.
Right.
Oh, is this the point where Cass mentions Cabin in the Woods, or is this later?
Oh, I think it is.
I think it
Yeah.
is because the sub is being turned away, and then
Yeah.
they're in quarantine. They're in quarantine. Yeah, that's right. So I like that Cabin in the Woods is a film from 2012, and this takes place in 2119. So Cabin in the Woods is is either very impactful in this world, or I just like Cass because it's horror. So she's already a friend in my books.
And he
You
did
would
mention that the guy in the top hat is from Tivoli,
Tivoli,
which was the God complex. The
yes,
same mole-like
character,
character.
and the same writer of the God Complex is the same writer of these episodes.
And I think it shows in certain areas.
Yeah,
because
it's not really
it does-
shocking.
Especially the next episode, we'll talk about then. But to bring the same character back, that's because he wrote it. It's like, oh, it's not character, the same species back. It's like, oh, good. Little flashback.
The doctor orders O'Donnell to put the base back in night mode so they can find out what the ghosts want. He uses the others to lead the ghosts into the Faraday cage and trap them inside. The doctor uses his sonic sunglasses to transmit what he is seeing to the others safe in command. Cass reads the ghosts' lips, which repeat the same words over and over again, coordinates which lead to the area around the base. It's actually a transmission that gets stronger as the number of ghosts increase. The doctor is then told that the base has not always been underwater. Over 100 years ago, a dam broke and flooded the base and the adjacent town. Searching the area, they find the missing suspended animation chamber and bring it into the base.
This Faraday cage is a real thing for some of us that don't know sci-fi. It's supposed to eliminate any kind of interference coming in. So Frank, I think of it like a cone of silence, an actual cone of silence. And in the DVD commentary, they said that the Pope has sort of a Faraday cage when
he's talking to God.
Yeah, or when they're getting a new Pope. Is that right? When the current Pope has to go and be isolated. Is that right or no?
Well, they do that,
Okay.
but I don't know if they do it with the Faraday cage.
Oh no, they said that the Faraday cage is kind of like what the Pope goes in, so there's nothing interfering with the Pope's decision. That's that type of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I enjoyed I would think of it from more Alien 3, but that luring something into a trap and using all your crew as bait, that's always a fun sequence. Yeah.
It was done so well, I thought.
Yes, I like it.
Well, I also like that they didn't think it through. They've split up.
Like, why wouldn't they?
We should have let them in on the plan because that would have been easier. Yeah, I loved it. I thought they did really well with that. I forgot that they had the whole discussion that the doctor, as she said, poo-pooed the idea of ghosts because ghosts aren't real. And then they're ghosts. And he gets excited because
Yeah.
let's go with
Like
it. Let's just do with it because it doesn't fit any of the other criteria we've done.
And he says it's so him, where it's like, I just thought of this idea.
Right. And I don't have my phone with me. Do you have the references that he made to the Autons, to the who other people were ghosts? He had the Nether Sphere.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. The downloaded into the Nether Sphere.
Oh, the almost people.
Did he say the Gelf?
No, which I was surprised. I don't think he did.
Oh, here we go. He eliminates the possibility of flesh avatars from the Rebel Flesh and almost people, the Gangers, and then from Spearhead in Space, the Autons he mentions, and then digital copies in the Nethersphere from Darkwater and Death in Heaven. So I think those are the only three he brought up.
It was interesting because it's like I want to talk a whole episode about how Doctor sees religion and the spirit, because he says it's gone. You die, your body's gone, your spirit's gone. But he believes that, you are a spirit. There is something in you that's not just the physical matter of the body, but his belief that it just ends afterwards. And that, like they did in the Nether Sphere, it's like you're just robbing them of the death by trapping that spirit, in the digital form or in some other way. So he's really against that unless he doesn't. He's done it a few times now, and we're all like, oh, that's so cool. Oh, that's so cool. And then when the others do that to trap it for their own reasons, and that's the main reason, is because of what their values are. But it's just, no, that's abhorrent. It's like we all love River, and he trapped her digitally. So,
as annoying as I found the sunglasses, they actually serve a purpose in this story, as like we mentioned with the kind of surveillance type of view that they're using, and then later on they'll be used for something else later.
Right. They had to, I think.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot, but this was aired before, although backlash happened because they filmed it all first. And then they aired it. But that was good that they made a good reason for it. The regular Sonic could have done something like that to transmit, but it was just really nicely done.
Oh, speaking of that, this is the first episode since The Unicorn and the Wasp not to feature the sonic screwdriver.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But it's the glasses.
I know, but it's not the screwdriver, it's the sonic glasses.
I know. Well, then it won't be the last without the sonic screwdriver.
And this is also where he's talking to Clara about not going native, and that she's getting too much.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that. I really wish they had gone just a little bit further to really make sure Clara understands what he's saying. But in this, she's still kind of flippant about it.
And when he said, find a relationship, I think that was, people see that as a joke. Find somebody, do something, find a hobby. And I just saw that a bit more cruel because it's like it's too soon at this point for me for what they've gone through. Because they broke up, she lost Danny, and then when they got together at Christmas, it's like she had to tell him that Danny's dead and she's still dealing with it. And now it's like, it hasn't been that long, at least in this period of watching it. I don't know how long they've been together, but it doesn't seem like it's been that long. It just seemed, no, that's cruel. And it looked like Clara was tearing up. Did you guys see that when he's telling her? And then going, should I stop now? She goes, yes, please. It's like she gets it, even though I didn't get it the first time at all. But just at the end, it looked like she was tearing up a bit. Yeah, stop, because it was too close to home.
Yeah,
it was.
That's how I took it
from it. So I think she did really well with that. I just didn't pick it up the first time, but I thought, oh, okay. So I missed a lot the first time I watched this when it first aired.
Probably just angry that Clara's still around when it first aired.
Right.
I know that was my issue.
Well, I liked Clara more than most, but then I liked different incarnations of her, or when she got up to a certain point, and then it was like, well, she's different enough that it just kept changing the idea. And I thought that the proof that they weren't ghosts, even when the first time I watched it, was when the lights came back on and Pritchard disappeared. That's not what ghosts do. It's like, no, that should be proof that at this point with the doctor going, there's something else going on here. It's not ghost, which he also gets. But to me, that was definitely proof. And it was interesting that they could both go through matter and then be solid enough to handle matter. They can't do both at the same time.
And only metal, right? Like, was that one of the things?
Possibly, from what we're getting. I think it was having to do with metal.
And I think the doctor
it
mentioned it real brief.
Yeah, because the chair, he was holding it by the metal legs, and then later on Well,
And they're going after oops. They're going after Clara and the doctor with the axe and the spear gun, which looked metal. But I
The
didn't know they
wrench.
killed Preacher.
the
Yeah.
wrench, yes. But
And then
then,
they
but then
killed
the
Pritchard.
axe, is the handle wood?
It didn't
Oh,
look
I
like
think it was. I yeah, it was one.
I don't think
I
it
just
was.
think that they would have brought
Underwater.
metal down into the
Yeah.
under the sea. They wouldn't have brought wood because it would warp.
Yeah, I'm probably just overthinking that. That's what we do here.
But then when he killed Pritchard, they just touched the panel, which I mean metallic and electronic. So
And they were able to type out Morse code.
true.
And change the whole thing to day mode.
Yeah.
But when they were attacking Lund and then dropped the wrench,
Mm-hmm.
it was like, he's not companion material. Looking at all this around, Cass was and O'Donnell, but it's like, Lund, yeah, you're not.
But
you're Mickey. You're the dog.
but then it makes sense why they didn't go after him.
Oh, true. You didn't get it yet.
And,
Yeah.
and I like that. But we won't tell you here now, but when it comes up, I'm like, man, that's smart.
Yes. Yeah. But him just not even answering. Are you okay? Are you okay? He's like, answer already. And I did like the fake out at the end with Clara when they trapped the ghost inside the Faraday cage.
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't see that coming. I thought she was standing there.
Yeah, that was pretty
Like,
cool.
that makes no sense. And then, oh, got me. That was good. And the one last thing was that the doctor, because they can be both go through matter or hold matter, depending on how they want to be. So when he went into the doctor, Moran went into the doctor's chest, and the doctor playing, oh, and then, yeah, you guys can't do anything to me because right now you're passing through me. You can't do anything. You can't go solid while you're in me. You got to do one or the other. So I thought that was good, but it also made them less scary to me. As other ghosts and things, it's like they can't just move objects. It's like one or the other, not combined.
And I think that's why I like Doctor Who. It takes archetypes and stereotypes of horror, but makes it different. In this case, ghosts are not the ghosts that we know. And I think that's part of the fun for me, is figuring out how the writers in the show are going to make a ghost be sci-fi and Doctor Who-y instead of a dead person's soul wandering the earth or whatever.
Right.
The ghosts begin to flood the base. Everyone runs toward the TARDIS, but Clara, Cass, and Lund become trapped and are left behind. The Doctor decides that the answers lie at the beginning, before the town was flooded. He takes O'Donnell and Bennett with him in the TARDIS and travels to the past. Back on the station, Clara, Cass, and Lund see a new ghost through a window. It is the Doctor. That's got to be one of the best endings to an episode.
Yeah.
It was a good cliffhanger. That was
It's
good.
creepy.
I mean, I remember that the first time I was like, I want to watch the next episode. This is just really good.
What do you mean the Doctor's dead?
And that slow just like turn, or the way they covered it where Clara sees it and realizes who it is first before the other two is perfect.
Right.
Yeah, they did a great job setting up like the repercussions of death in this story. So then to give you that image of the Doctor that, no one has to say it. You'd leap to that conclusion like, oh, the Doctor has died and he just went back to the past. So yeah, that's a wonderful cliffhanger.
I just like that the way that flips, because they're separated, which Doctor Who is known to do, to separate the companion from the Doctor. And then the Doctor is thinking, oh, I have the TARDIS, the time machine. I'm going to go back and I'm going to save the other three that are trapped. And you're like, okay, it's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. And then you just see that all taken away at the end. It's great.
Yeah.
And that both time periods are running concurrently, kind of thing. So that was interesting. It's like, okay, the time's traveling the same way. That was different. Now, we did skip over a lot because we're just summarizing so we can talk about it. But when they figured out the coordinates and the wording, I thought it was interesting that he thought of Orion being the constellation and following the sword being Orion's sword. But where in the galaxy, where else in the universe is it seen that way, that it's a straight line sword? Because there are different depths and distances.
Oh, I can answer that.
Okay, thanks.
Nowhere.
I looked and I couldn't find anything.
Yeah, no, but it's not, because they're millions of light years away. It just appears to be next to each other here. But if you went 90 degrees, the stars are completely
They're
They
different.
wouldn't
different
line up.
areas.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same with like the Big Dipper. Those stars aren't near each other. They don't. If you moved to the side of the Big Dipper, they're all to the left and to the right of each other. It's only from our point of view that they line up that way.
Which I really liked how he did it. It's like tells you what it is, shows you what it is, and I thought that was a great idea. It just forget reality kind of thing. Because then the Earth is the last one. It's like, okay, I can get that.
I'm surprised they never did that in Doctor Who, where somebody earthbound mentions the constellation and the Doctor's like, oh, it's known as this in this other culture.
But you wouldn't see them.
No, that's what I mean. Like, you only see it that way. No, somebody else sees it a different way.
Well, yeah,
Or-
they'd see the groupings as completely different areas.
Or not, or like you said, not at all.
Yeah.
So I'm just surprised they never brought that up before.
It seems like it would be more likely to happen in classic Who, where you had people, that might have been more able to navigate by the stars. Like, oh, let me find the North Star, Doctor. And the grumpy doctor would have been like, you idiot, you can't find the North Star on this planet. That's back on your world. I don't know if the doctor ever called people idiots, but
I'm sure he has.
Oh, he did.
yeah. Okay.
I think he did in this episode. Why am I talking to this idiot?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He goes, who's in charge so I know which one to ignore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought that there was something that should have or might have been done. I don't know Classic Who that well enough to pull that out of my brain, but you're right. It seems more like a Classic Who thing where he was doing more like planet hopping.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctor deduced that they were not souls, not the real soul, or not ghosts, because there was a plan. They had
Mhm.
an agenda, and they were hijacked to do this agenda. So I like that, where it's like, okay, we had enough fun of me going, okay, yeah, there goes, yay, yay. Because he never really bought into it, but he's like, I'm going to just go with it because that's kind of new and different and fun. So I did like that, and going, okay, here's my proof of why they are not real. And then Bennett, I thought was great in that we can leave now. They're trapped. We can go. And he's right. Go. You can go contact unit, get other people with more experience in this than what he had. And the doctor keeps them there. The doctor persuades them to stay, which I thought was
While
like,
at the same time, and I think honestly says, I'd actually prefer it if you'd go. But
but then he paints
But-
that rosy picture of being
Yeah, he
noble and
manipulates
all that.
them, yeah.
It's like, oh,
yeah, he just can't
But
help
that's-
himself.
the doc, yeah, that's him at this point. So it's true, and he did it well. It's just, dang it.
Because we talk about shortcuts of getting to know characters. I felt this was a great shortcut, but at the end of the episode where I kind of like them all for staying, but in writing and in screenwriting, they're going to stay because that's
Right.
there's a second episode. But then the motivations for them staying are more endearing, and I like the way that they went about doing that, where it was part of that
Oh, yeah.
where it was part of the curiosity that the doctor has of finding out and solving a mystery that he enticed them with. And I enjoyed that all of them were able to go, especially the last guy, like you said, where he's like, but ghosts.
I'll come
Yeah,
back and
they
haunt
are.
you. You
They
know I
are.
will.
It's their way of addressing that. Why do people in horror movies stay? And so it's like they just use the doctor and did it in a perfectly doctor way of that's why they're staying around. Because how many times, even when it's not a haunted thing, it's like just get in the TARDIS. Oh look, the TARDIS got thrown a million miles away again. It's like, okay, well, this is a very human way of making them stay.
But it just reminded me so much of all the family members of his companions, of saying, can you keep Rose safe? What are you doing to Martha? Well, and then Donna's mother, like, no, you're just, it's like they were all right, but they made it more comic and you're on the companion's side at that time. But to me, with this one, it's so blatant. Yeah, he is manipulating them, whether he even knows it or not, which he knows. But it's kind of like, yeah, it's always going to be dangerous traveling with him, doing anything with him.
I think he knows what he's doing because of what happens in the second episode that I'll bring
Yeah.
up.
Mhm.
Well, and it's an interesting thing this season that they're doing all these two-parters, because one of our critiques of a lot of single episodes in the past is, well, maybe this could have been a two-parter and they could have taken their time to flesh out
Mhm.
some things. So it you get more character beats towards the end of the first episode because you are launching these characters into the next episode. So structurally, yeah, it's interesting to see how these, for better or worse, are different than like what I would think of as a typical Doctor Who season.
Mhm.
Did you notice when they were looking for these the suspension not suspension? What was it? That's supposed to be on
Suspended
the shuttle.
animation.
Suspended animation. Thank you. Suspended animation chamber, and they're using that drone remote to find it. When they're looking at the screen is at a Dutch angle from the camera. And it's just like, rather than making any weird or moving, it was just giving you that eeriness because it wasn't off by much, but it just had that. I go, oh, I like that. I didn't realize that before. Just to give you that little something's off. It was like, that was a smart move. I liked it. Good camera.
And this is what, 2015, before we had augmented reality with headsets and things. So it's like today that's a thing. Apple just released their device.
So yeah, they knew it was coming, so that was nice they put it in. And this is where
Well, I see that more as just a camera like they do in Titanic. It's just a drone.
But the part with the hands being part of the remote control, that's the part I'm thinking of as well.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Controlling it from the base. And
I could be wrong.
he also brings up the clockwork squirrel, and this is where he talks about the music.
Yeah, he took apart. What did he take apart?
Radio.
Yes, he took apart a radio to make a clockwork squirrel, which will come back next episode. But he does bring up music. He talks about that he met Shirley Bassey, who is
Dame Shirley Bassey, I saw.
Yes, I was going to say Dame Shirley Bassey, who is a singer best known for the themes of James Bond movies, Goldfinger, Diamonds Are Forever, and Moonraker. And then he also mentions that he got the song Mysterious Girl by Peter Andre stuck in his head like an earworm, I think he says.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, when I first heard that, I didn't know the song. And I thought it's a play on with Impossible Girl being Clara, Mysterious Girl. Oh. But then I listened to the song, it's like, oh, yeah, this would have been a pop hit in whatever, maybe early 90s. It's very Caribbean Islander type of poppiness. I don't know how else to describe it, but I can see how that can get stuck in your head.
Yeah, I didn't want that to be stuck in mine, so I didn't. I looked it up and was like, no, I don't think I want to hear it.
The doctor also mentions that he had an argument with Gandhi.
Mm-hmm.
I just wrote that down. I don't remember where that was. So yeah, they're having some good stuff in this episode as far as weird combinations of fun and like alluding to other adventures, which we always bring up, but then selfish things, I guess. I don't know how else to describe Clara's. I mean, I just heard it's inconsistent for me the way I would prefer a companion to behave in their second season, or this is her second and a half season.
But you can kind of look at it. I was gonna say, you can kind of look at it as, she was with Matt Smith, but now she's been with Capaldi for a while, and Capaldi's selfish, so she could really be picking up and learning from him.
But then they changed what the doctor was, so that, again, it's a little jarring from going one season of, oh, this is my doctor, and then you get the first episode of the second season, and you're like, oh, it's completely different.
Mm-hmm.
But in these two episodes, like we said before, I see this as the first season Doctor. I mean, mellowed a little, but.
And I think seeing how Clara is better on a rewatch after you know how it supposedly ends, kind of ends. And so I can appreciate that now where I didn't like it as much before. You just see it differently. So I'm glad I watched it again so that now that I know, and I can kind of pick up more on what the character is going through with the loss and putting everything into the doctor and emulating him.
For me, it's tough because the first impressions of an episode are very strong in my brain. And so when I rewatch episodes, I can forgive a lot, but that impression is still there.
Yes.
So it's tough for me.
But no, I totally get it because I didn't want to ever, revisit these. And that was my impression. It's like, yeah, they're not that good. And it's like, oh my gosh, wait a minute, what did I miss? I missed the one.
Yeah, because my first impressions, as you've been able to tell, are kind of negative, but rewatching them, the writing is clever in the way they set things up. And so it's weird juggling those two things in my brain.
Right.
I am enjoying all of these a lot more on this watch. And
yes.
I am getting to a point where I will be first watching again. And I don't think I have the same like hatred, if that's the word.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, manage
The same.
expectations.
Yeah, okay. Uh-oh.
Manage expectations because of what's coming. Manage your
That
expectation.
Yeah, that one's gonna be. I don't know if my opinion is gonna change of what happens at the end.
Yeah. But
Well,
this
and
one,
then
I'm
the one
surprised.
after that, the one that I would put Love and Monsters on a loop before I have to watch again.
That is
Oh,
also another thing with the
interesting.
two-parters is at least with all single episodes, if you had a bad one, you could just like chalk it off. But this, if there's two in a row.
Luckily, no, the one that I can't stand is just a one-parter.
Okay. So there's 1.5 bad stories.
And Eugene, you said you have the two different ones where one you didn't like, one you're getting. You know what happens that way? Best of 3. Sorry, just had to.
No, I get you. So we mentioned before that the Tivoli race was mentioned in the God Complex, and that Tivolian was Gibbous, if you remember that cowardly sort of mole person trying to see.
Yeah, he was that, but evil.
One of the Doctor's cards, like Brian mentioned, was sorry, this isn't Aberdeen, I think, right? Not
Yeah,
Aberdeen.
sorry,
It's funny because that sort of reminded me of Sarah Jane Smith being mistakenly dropping her off in Aberdeen. And I think that's what that's referencing.
Yeah,
it's totally
definitely. It's gotta
referencing
be.
that.
Yeah, in her last episode, I think it was Hand of Fear was the story.
I think so too. Yeah. This wasn't Croydon.
So we'll go through the cast and our recommendations in our next episode, which will wrap up this two-parter. So this will wrap up Under the Lake. Thanks for listening, stay safe, and we will see you next time when the future becomes the present.
You just listened to an episode of Who Knew?
Our wonderful theme music is by Michael Grady.
Find him on Facebook at The Universe Explodes.
Additional music is by Damiel Paggio.
Additional music by Paul Ohlers.
All our episodes are engineered by Auburn, and you can find him at auburnbinkley.com.
You can also find this show in several places.
Follow us on Twitter at Who Knew Podcast.
Subscribe, review, and listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts,
Or on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Who Knew Podcast.
All our episodes are on whoknewpodcast.com.
Visit our Facebook page.
Please leave comments, reviews, and click like to support Who Knew Podcast.
To listen to our show on your Amazon Echo device, subscribe to us on Amazon Music,
And then ask your Amazon device to play your podcast subscriptions.
This podcast is inspired by Doctor Who.
The longest running sci-fi show in history.
And especially the revival spearheaded by Russell T. Davis.
Thanks to Russell, Sidney Newman,
Verity Lambert, Ron Grainer,
and all those involved in the adventures of our favorite Time Lord.
Your work continues to inspire and entertain.